Alright, so today we're going to make some acoustic panels, and we're going to make them as cheap and efficient as possible. And I can guarantee you performance-wise that these panels will work just as good, if not better, than other commercial products that are available. So we're going to make 12 acoustic panels for under $250. These panels are going to be 16 inches by 48 inches when they're finished. I will leave the list down in the description. So from Home Depot, we're getting 16 1x4x8 pine boards. They call them common board, furring strip, whitewood. It depends where you're at. One bag of Rockwool Safe and Sound. The bag has 12 sheets, so that's how we're getting our 12 panels. Here's a bag of Rockwool. Yep, 12 sheets. So the Home Depot website is really helpful. You can shop by store. So mine just happens to be Van Nuys. And so you dial that in and then you just use the search. You can see I've already added everything to my cart. So the 16 1x4x8, they call them whitewood, and the Rockwool, and that's how I got my number. I added the sales tax for my area, and in California we have a California lumber fee, which is about, I think it's about 8 cents per board. 10 yards of polypoplin fabric. Okay, so this is black polypoplin that I just had in my garage. You can see it's plenty breathable. Onlinefabricstore.net seemed to be the way to go. So I just typed in polypoplin, which is short for polyester. And there you can see all the colors. This fabric is pretty basic and it's cheap. You can see right there, $2.95 a yard or less. So we're gonna go with black. So I went ahead and added it to the cart. Standard shipping is $10.99 to my area. So you can see black polypoplin, $2.95 a yard, 10 yards, that's $29.50. Shipping and tax brings it up to $43.66. So that's how I got that number. I also left fasteners, you know, the 2-inch screws and sandpaper, things like that. I'm just going to leave an allowance of $20. This really should come out to less, especially if you're outside of California. You can have Home Depot cut the lumber for you, but you're going to be waiting there for a long time. But that is one option that you can do. Just make sure you tell them the dimensions, which I will get to in a minute. All right, we are here. The world's busiest Home Depot. I don't know if that's true, but it's definitely one of the busiest in the world. There it is, the famous Rockwool. 48.38. We're buying one bag. These are what we'll be using. 1x4s at 8 feet. $6.16 each. Make sure to pick straight boards. This one is pretty straight, not perfect. And you want to avoid things like that. Definitely don't grab these, okay? Alright, so we're going to do 24 cuts at 48 and 24 cuts at 14.5. A quick little tip. You always want to cut your starting end before you make your measurement, because look at the quality of that. So if I were to put my square here, you could see that we're off like almost like a 1/4 of an inch. Look at that. And that's just how the boards came from the store. So I'm going to cut that basically that 1/4 inch off. I'm just going to align it. Alright, so now you're going to need some tools. All of these tools I will link in the description. You don't have to get these tools, but I do highly recommend them, especially for when we get to the fabric and we're going to be stapling. So this is the Senko 1-gallon air compressor. This thing has been with me for maybe 5 years now. I've never had an issue with it, and it's really quiet. Then you're going to need an air hose, 1/4 inch coupler, and a 1/4 inch plug. Up next we have our rigid 18 gauge brat nailer. This is a few years old, but it's solid. Here's our DeWalt stapler, 18 gauge. So for the rigid nailer, we're using 2-inch brad nails, 18 gauge. For the DeWalt stapler, we're using 1/2 inch narrow crown staples. It's 1/4 inch by 1/2 inch. Don't use anything bigger because it will go through the whole 1x4 and protrude from the other side. So 1/2 inch is as big as you want to go with these. Okay, so up next we have our combo from Milwaukee. It's a drill and an impact driver. The drill has a 1/8 inch pilot bit that we're going to be using. so that we don't split the wood. This is our impact driver with a Phillips bit because we were using Phillips screws. I just found these here. I have a bunch of these 2-inch drywall screws. So that's what I'm going to be using for this, but you can use whatever you want as long as it's at least 2-inch. This comes in handy. It just sprays air from the compressor, and it's good for cleanup. I have some scrap 220 sandpaper. I'm going to use that just to clean up the corners a bit. Okay, so before you tack it in, a few notes. This is how it's going to be assembled. We're not going to go like this. We're going to go like this, okay? So the short side goes in. One other thing, you can see that there's no beat up edges on this, and that's because I put them on the back. Most of the time your wood is going to have imperfections, and so like you see that right there, that would look really ugly with the fabric on it. So what I'm doing is I'm leaving this on the back side. If the panel were to be mounted on the wall, that would be facing the wall. So this way we get a nice edge for our fabric to wrap around. Just find the good side of the wood and put that facing up. Make sure you're in the center. Don't go like this or like this. Try to keep it straight. That way you don't get any nails protruding on the sides. When you're nailing, don't grab it here. Remember, they're 2-inch nails. Grab it a little further back so that if the nail were to shoot out, it's not going to hit you. I'm doing 4 nails in each corner. Make sure that this is flush right here and that this is flush. We're going to lightly sand this so it rounds it up and it doesn't pinch the fabric on the sharp edge. So here's our frame. What I love about using the nailer for this is you don't have to hold it while you're drilling or clamping it. We're going to do 2 screws on each corner. It's hard to film this by myself. I do everything by myself. Make sure you countersink so they're not protruding. Alright, so I've wiped down my working surface, which is actually a door that I'm using as a table, and I've unwrapped my fabric. Mine's on the roll. Depending on where you buy it from, you might just have it bunched up. I'm using the factory edge here and the factory edge here, so that's our 60-inch dimension, so we're going long ways. The 1x4s are actually 3.5 inches, so as long as we have 5 inches left over, we can do the fold over the edge. All right, so now I made sure I have my slack over here, and I make sure I have my slack over here. Just little habits you pick up over the years. I use the scissors as like a measuring device, so I just open them kind of like this, and I see how much that's hanging over right there. And then I put them sideways, and I'm like, okay, this is my line. And so I just cut there. So there's a few ways to do this process. We're gonna start with the short lengths. And the way we do that is we're gonna start with this fold. This is where we're gonna staple on the inside. Make sure that you have the same space on both sides. Okay, so we've done both sides. When you do the opposite side, so on that one we just stapled it. On this one, you actually have to pull and do some tension to get rid of the wrinkles so that it's not all loose and pillowy. So we did both lengths here. Now we're gonna do this side. And remember, you don't have to pull hard right here, because if you pull hard here, you're gonna end up with less fabric over here. You see that? So you wanna do very little tension on this side. So we've stapled this side. Don't go all the way to the end. Leave about a hand distance, because we're gonna have to do the fold right here so that we can get a nice clean finished edge. All right, so with my right hand, I'm pulling and folding over like that, keeping the tension. That creates this fold. Bring it all the way to the edge right there so that it's flush. Keep the tension. Give it 3 taps. Okay, and then you can finish your run right here. So the opposite side, same thing. Fold this end over like that. Find the crease and fold it and line it up with the edge of the panel like so. Keep some tension on there. Make sure that you don't have any wrinkles right here. And tap it in. 3 staples there, and then go to town right. There it is. This is all fine right here. Okay, so now you're probably wondering, why did we make these panels 16 by 48 instead of 24 by 48? And the reason for that is our Rockwool comes readily available in that size. So there, you can see we didn't have to cut the insulation. It fits firmly in this frame. So there you have it. This is how you make some cheap and very effective sound panels. They look just as good as what you would buy commercially. Please like and subscribe. I'm going to be making a lot more videos, and I hope you find some valuable information in there.